Meow. Look, 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 Yummy, look.
I dramatically blocked it out.
Hello, everybody,
Hello.
and welcome to another episode of the Barely Sober Book Club podcast. I am, of course, one half host, William Woodard. And with me is the other half host, Alex Green.
Good day
Or evening.
or evening or
Uh,
time's up.
Before we get started, can you guys do me a favor and like and subscribe? That would be a huge help. Um,
Please.
we're right in the middle of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It's not good. We're having some giggles, some gaffs,
Mm-hmm.
um, but also some really real head scratchers. There's a lot of shit in this book that just doesn't make sense.
No, and I think we've resigned ourselves to the fact that it won't ever make sense.
Yeah,
And if it does eventually, hey, added bonus.
doubt it.
We all know that nobody is here for the politics, for the dragons. We are here for to self-insert ourselves into Violet and get
I don't know about
railed
that.
by Shadow Daddy.
No, 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 no,
That's
no.
all anyone wants to read this book for. That's why
No,
we're
no, 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 no. No, thank you. I'm not into big edgelords. But let's start where we left off with chapter 11. And my first note made me laugh glancing at it because I think at some point either Violet or Rhiannon they're talking about something, probably about Xaden, and one of them says he so does.
They're talking about Dane
Oh, well, I
because
wrote that down because I was like, please, I'm begging you, don't ever do that shit again.
I think Rhiannon was talking to Violet about Dane having like a bad boy next door energy or something like that.
Oh my god, he so does.
Yeah, he so does. That's so
I
him.
hate it. This is a fantasy book. People
With
don't say that kind of shit.
modern sensibilities.
Ugh. Uh, I don't remember
What
what
would
happened in this chapter.
what would have been better to say if she had been like, "He doth do." Yes, verily he doth.
Yeah. He, he presents the sensibilities of a bachelor. Quite indeed. I must agree. Verily doth.
Yes, quite.
I don't remember what happens in chapter 11.
It is okay, this is presentation day. So it's before threshing. Presentation day is when you have to she Violet does the gauntlet with her homies,
Right.
and she has a plan for how she's gonna get up the final part of the gauntlet because she does not have the strength. She doesn't have the reach or flexibility. Actually, just kidding. She says she's very flexible at one point. She doesn't have the reach to get up this chimney-like piece of the gauntlet at the end. So she has a plan. Um,
Right, because if you remember, dear reader, she's frail and weak and pathetic,
exactly.
but
So
so hot.
super hot, illness-induced balayage with her silver-tipped hair, and she doesn't need help from anybody except for Dane and Xaden probably sometimes. So, she does I don't this is described in a way that is very difficult to explain because it didn't make sense to me at the time. She grabs one of the emergency escape ropes and uses it somehow to get up the chimney, but then she also uses some daggers that she brought with her over the parapet to get to Dragon School, which is a fact that will become important later. Um, she uses them as, like, little handholds and also to, like, swing herself up to the top of the cliff, therefore completing the gauntlet and being able to approach the dragons that they're gonna
Right.
be kind of parading themselves in front of later.
If you think
But
about it, if she does not possess the strength to like pull herself up a ledge, then she also does not possess the strength to use daggers as handholds to pull herself up as well.
that's neither here nor there.
Right, of
But
course.
she gets up to the top, and then she's immediately cornered by this girl, Amber, who fucking hates her guts. She's like, "You can't do that. You used external things and tools and whatever." But one thing we haven't mentioned about Violet up to this point is that she's a notorious rules lawyer. She has the codex memorized, and she's always quoting articles and addendums and
Right.
blah, blah, blah. But she ends up lawyering her way into being allowed to count that as a victory because when you bring things across with you on the parapet into school, everything you bring with yourself is becomes like legally becomes a part of you. And so
Okay.
there was like no foreign objects involved in her gauntlet climbing victory. And Xaden is like, there's a glimmer of a smirk in his eyes, approving of this. And he allows it. Amber's really pissed about it. But then he goes, Soren Gale, you're leaking, which is a disgusting way of saying your hands are bleeding.
Yeah.
But yeah, she basically just she passes on a technicality. We love that for her. And now she's allowed to go and strut her stuff in front of the awaiting dragons.
She has up to this point accomplished nothing. She has cheated and loopholed her way to victory.
I think that's allowed at Dragon School, though.
Cheating?
Is it cheating if you're still winning?
If the point of the course was to test your physical strength and you did everything in your power to not do that, yes, I think it is
No,
cheating.
but I think she uses her physical strength to get through every other component of it. It's just that
Mm.
she's too short to get the height piece here for this last obstacle. So she has to improvise.
I was more referring to her poisoning people.
Oh, I mean, what's worse though? Making people mildly ill or fucking breaking their neck mid-fight?
Uh, well, I mean, it's been well established that killing fellow students is not only accepted but almost encouraged.
Yeah. So
So
why poisoning should fall into that category
yeah,
then?
but it's not like poisoning. She never did it to like get rid of someone she didn't want to fight. She did it to skip the fight entirely, and they
Yeah,
still counted it as a win.
I know. It's a weird dichotomy of like,
As someone who's very competitive, this boils my blood.
hmm.
I don't stand for people who try to like squeeze, like slip their way out of an actual contest.
Well, I think it's less about a contest and more about like survival, and she's using everything at her means to survive. And I think poisoning, I mean, when it comes down to it, if she gets into fisticuffs with someone, she's going down and she's going down hard,
Yeah.
but might as well enjoy the ride
Yeah, good
while
riddance.
you can. I don't
If
know.
I
I
if
think the rules are so nebulous that it would be bonkers to draw a judgment against this thing specifically when it's a fucking the lawless Wild West at Dragon School.
yeah, I mean, fair enough. But if I can quote the great homie Worf, son of Moog, she has no honor.
No. Who does though at this school?
Zayden, he kind of does.
He's like the only one.
I know, and it hurts to say it.
Everyone else are either cops or sociopaths.
Yeah, it's really a hellish spot. I also wrote down in my notes that that this book is really making me confront my own personal failings as a writer, because a
Oh.
lot of the things I was noticing in this book are some things that I do in my own writing, and it really made me have to like pause it, set down my notebook, and just kind of have a go look in the mirror for a while. Like, what am I doing, man?
Do you have examples?
No, not specific ones. But a lot of it was like a description, like sort of um the way that she describes things is really lackluster.
Yeah.
And I have a tendency to kind of skip out on descriptions in my own stuff, which I know is a problem, but I can also go back and fix it. She didn't.
That's the thing. Like, you're at a very different point in the process of the
Yeah.
piece that you're writing versus a hardback that I have in my hands right now.
You got the hardback?
Yeah, I regret it, but I really wanted something to annotate. And it was on sale, so
Fair enough. Can't
it's
really
just
beat
nice.
that.
It's nice to hold, you know?
Are you a when you read a hardcover, do you
Mhm.
take the dust jacket off and read it that way, or do you keep that bitch on?
I keep that bitch on.
I don't know if I could do that. I don't like that.
Everything about the way I read books, I think, is causing you cosmic horror.
Well, I mean, the last time when we talked about how you place bookmark, or the fact that you don't use bookmarks, that's crazy. But like not taking a dust jacket off is that's not going to keep me up at night. Not using a bookmark is going to keep me up at night. Because like remembering where you left off up to fucking women chance is
Yeah.
madness I can't abide.
I seem to do just fine.
Well, okay. Rebecca also misuses another macabre here.
It's not macabre. It's just facts.
No, that's not correct.
Yeah, Dane's like, I don't want to bury you, Vi, and she's like, one of us is gonna have to bury each other one of these days. It's not, and then in her mind, I think she just thinks it's not macabre. It's just fact. It's like that one is less egregious than the other, but because
It's
it was
almost
already
there.
bad, I've got my macabre binoculars
Yeah,
laser focused.
and macabre is such a specific word that like using it twice in such a short span makes it's like turning on a flashlight in a dark room. We can all see it now.
Yeah, fully.
I don't think much happens in this chapter.
No, once she rules lawyers her way out of the situation, she just has like bleeding hands and has to tend to them.
Yeah.
And that's all that there is to say about chapter 11.
Great. Then let's go to chapter 12. which starts with another Princess Eurolon quote. I actually wrote this one down because it was so stupid. I mean, they're all dumb.
Yeah.
And maybe you can correct me because I know you've got the book in front of you, but it's the quote in front of chapter 12 where it basically says it's dangerous to look at a brown dragon, so just don't. Which I was like, you could have just left that out because it's neither a help nor a hindrance.
Yeah. That's basically it. It goes, presentation day is unlike any other. The air is ripe with possibilities and possibly the stench of sulfur from a dragon who has been offended. Never look a red in the eye.
Oh, it was a red.
Never back down from a green. If you show trepidation to a brown, well, just don't.
Oh, I hate that. I hate it. All of these quotes end with like that kind of schoolyard, oh yeah, well don't.
Yeah.
And it's so bad.
I'm
That's
just getting
so
started.
and like if you're thinking of outsmarting a black dragon, think again. Okay.
Whoa.
Anyway, I think this is the first time we are introduced to how big the dragons actually are.
Yes, I was wrong when we talked about it earlier.
Because I was under the understanding that they're about 25 feet tall.
And you would be correct. It's written in the book, averaging 25 feet tall.
Which is pretty big. It's about as big as a house.
25 feet's pretty big.
Yeah.
That's like 5 of me stacked on top of each other.
There is some discourse that I saw on TikTok of the girlies talking about how one in particular was this girl was like beside herself because she was looking at fan art. And
oh yeah.
she had assumed that all of the dragons were like Game of Thrones size, like huge, fucking huge.
That's what I pictured too in my head.
But this fan art had Zayden on Sagael, and he was like riding him like a toddler would ride a dog.
Yeah.
Like he was like the Sagael in this piece of fan art was about the size of a car.
Yeah, my family's golden retriever.
And he was hugging its neck like this.
Yeah.
And riding like his head was all like about the same size as the dragon's head. And I had a good laugh. But also it's weird that that girl thought that the dragons were I think it's just the Game of Thrones dragons are like the default in most people's minds.
Yeah, and then when we actually get a to scale size reference of Violet and her dragon, it's like it doesn't register in my brain that he's like abnormally gigantor.
Yeah.
So my brain was immediately like, oh, every dragon must be like that. So
Yeah. And is this the chat were Feathertails introduced before this?
no, this is the first. Well, yes, they were mentioned very briefly in Dragon Time lessons where it was like, oh, Feathertails, nobody bonds with them. No one actually has ever even seen one. They all live in the Vale. They never come out. They're not for combat. They don't bond. They're peace living.
Right. And a lot of at first, when Feathertails are mentioned in this particular chapter, because it's mentioned with such emphasis that Feathertails are pacifists, they don't fight. I was like, oh, that's for sure gonna be Violet's dragon.
That's part of what I thought too, but I was like, no, there's no way that that giant black dragon isn't going to be hers. Like, there's simply no world. But then it had me doubting myself a little bit.
Oh, you know what it was? It wasn't that they don't fight. That's later on. it was mentioned that feathertails don't bond.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, okay, what makes them different from the fucking other ones that don't bond because they're picky?
Yeah.
Because throughout the whole book so far, they're like, oh, dragons don't bond with anybody. And it's like, okay, then what's the point of this school? If they're like, if one in like 80 people is getting bonded to a dragon, then we've wasted a great deal of like government resources on this school, where it's like, if 80 people die for one person to get on top of a dragon and the dragon to tolerate it, then that, okay, I can live with that.
Apparently that's entirely worth it.
It's very weird. I don't get it.
Yeah. But their whole deal for this part of presentation day is to present themselves to dragons.
Yeah.
So they kind of have them all lined up. From what I understand, from how I pictured it in my head, they have to
Yeah,
go
I
up to
pictured it like a used car lot.
yeah, and they all have to walk in single file with enough room between them in case one of them gets like incinerated on sight because a dragon didn't like the vibes that they were giving off.
Yeah, spoilers.
Yeah, and so there's like this super annoying girl, Luca, who's just been bitching about everything the entire time she's been there, being like, "Oh my god, we heard there's like a feather tail." And everyone's like, "That's ridiculous. There's no way there's a feather tail here." But there's like essentially Violet and her friends are in this like little socially distanced parade. And the instructors are like, make sure you talk amongst yourselves so the dragons can get a good idea of who you are, but don't look any of them in the eyes. Okay, kids, just keep walking. Feel free to look at it if it's showing off its tail, but don't look in its eyes. And so they're like walking along, having little small talk conversations to show off their strong cadet bond. And they see this like small golden feather tail dragon. And everybody is immediately like, ew, it's so small and weak and disgusting. And then this guy, Tynan, he goes, it's it's not even powerful enough to be a real color. It's yellow.
Gold is a color, my man.
Is yellow are they not colors? It's like, "It's not it's so weak, like you, Violet." And everyone gets so mad. They're like, "How dare you call a squad mate weak and frail in front of the other dragons? Can't do that. They might kill her."
But also, like, isn't that the point? Don't you want to like kill, like, get rid of her so that you get a dragon and not her? It doesn't make sense. It's so
You're
flip floppy.
you can't betray your squad mates yet. That's not until threshing. You still have to be a united front when you walk amongst the dragons.
Speaking of
So
threshing, by this point in the book, I've had my fucking fill of that word.
I know. Um, there's my favorite part about this, so 2 squad mates died during presentation day. Luca, the bitchy girl, but then this guy Pryor, whose only characteristic is that he's notoriously indecisive, and he just gets murdered on sight.
Yeah, he gets vaporized.
The only thing we've ever heard about him is him not knowing what to eat for breakfast, and then later being like, "Should we stop? Maybe we should stop. Oh, but if you guys wanna keep going, we can keep going." He just gets blasted.
It's so disrespectful. And like, what's even more disrespectful is that when he gets vaporized in front of Violet, she's like, "Oh my god, that's so terrible." And then she steps over his corpse to keep going.
Yeah, she's like, "Is the ground still on fire where his body is, or can I keep going?"
Like, the way that life is so cheap in this book
Mhm.
that it makes the Black Company look like optimistic.
This is the real grimdark?
Yeah. Like, the way that people throw away other people's lives is so harrowing.
Mhm.
It makes me uncomfortable, and I love grimdark.
Mhm.
I thrive in that gritty, disgusting, bad place. And this makes me go, ugh, I don't like this.
My favorite part in this chapter is we get kind of like another little hint at how special Violet is.
Yeah, of course.
As she gets approached by two green dragons who are making eye contact with her and like doing little dragon smelling things around her. And everyone's like, Violet, what's going on? But she realizes it's because her sister has sewn her dragon scales into Violet's armor, or at least she thinks that's what it is. She's like, "Oh yeah, you can smell him, can't you?" And they're just like doing like little nuzzles,
Yeah.
and then she goes on her way. It's a very
They're
weird
doing
little
like
exchange.
the cat bouncing sniff.
Yeah,
And she's like, I hope they don't bite me.
yeah,
And they were doing like they're both doing the cat's bouncing sniff and
mhm,
also the dog like chick 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 with their teeth where they're like
yeah,
how they chew on themselves to scratch an itch.
mhm.
And she was like, "Oh my god, this is terrifying." She's more scared of that than she was of witnessing a fellow classmate being incinerated in front of her.
Yeah, but she makes it through, and they all well, all of them save Luca and Pryor, make it through presentation day, and that's all for chapter 12.
Thank God. Okay, chapter 13.
Threshing day,
Right. Uh,
October
a
1st.
great quote from this because I think at some point Jack and his like band of cronies like approach and threaten her? Question mark.
Yeah, once threshing starts.
Yeah, and she this is an actual quote. Each of them were each of them strapped with their own deadly sword. And that stuck out to me because I was like, yeah, of course it's fucking deadly. What do you mean?
Maybe they have letter opener swords also, just for decor.
As opposed to the non-deadly variety of sword. But this also is like symptomatic of the way that Rebecca Yaros describes things.
Yeah.
She adds on adjectives and descriptors that are either not descriptors or adjectives or like obvious.
Yeah, or too much.
She's a big like you can tell by the way that some paragraphs when she's describing something specifically that she
Mhm.
gets really purple
Yeah.
almost to the point where you could tell that the editor was like, all right, cut that shit out.
Yeah, and then you can see moments where they just gave up and were like, "You know
Yeah,
what? I have so many other things to fix here. I'll let this one go."
like the editors were like bleary-eyed, cross-eyed by the time they were done with this book that they just miss a bunch of purple prose.
Yeah, exactly. But from what I understand about this chapter, a threshing day happens in a giant valley, and they're basically just like, "Okay, go have fun finding a dragon. Bye."
Yeah.
At some point, some people are feeling a little bit connected to a dragon that they met during presentation day. Other people are not. Violet has not is not feeling connected to any of the dragons she met.
Right.
And so she decides to pull like a Katniss and starts climbing a tree just to do a vibe check on the valley.
Yeah.
But as she's doing that, she sees Tynan, Jack, and Orin, and they are just hunting for sport, the gold dragon that they saw on the roof,
Yeah.
instead of trying to find their own dragons. And their whole like justification for this is like, well, our bonded dragons, they already know who we are. They'll come find us. Let's kill this dragon for absolutely no reason. And she jumps down from the tree, fucks up an ankle, and runs over to try to warn the dragon before the 3 guys get to them. And their whole justification for anything is like, we're removing the weak. We got to get rid of the weak.
Yeah, they don't
And
fight anyway.
yeah, and
Which,
like,
by the way, uh, I, for whatever reason, them, like Jack being like, it's not that big of a deal. Feathertails don't fight anyway. And I was like, how come in these fantasy books and shit, it's always like creatures named shit like Feathertail who are always the pacifists,
yeah.
and it's not like some dragon who's called like Nuclear Blast who's the fucking pacifist. You know what I mean?
I would like a dragon called Nuclear
It's
Blast.
like
Oh.
the dragon who's like Deathbringer. He's like, no, I'm a pacifist. It's the name is honestly just kind of like it's a generational thing. I'm not actually a Deathbringer. I'm more of like a death refuser, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, that would be too much because obviously every dragon is as vicious as the weapon it has on its tail. And if
Right.
this only has a little feather, it has to be killed by these dragon poachers now. And
And let's be
Violet,
honest, like the people reading this book are not interested in the intricacies of dragon kind.
no, we want to know when Zayden is going to be like, "Who hurt you?"
Yeah,
to
like
Violet.
already the girlies are bored.
Yeah, let's get to the good stuff. Um, so they're all like closing in on killing this defenseless tiny dragon, like the big scary boys they are. And Zayden, well, Violet feels her scalp prickle, and she
Uh-oh.
could tell Zayden and Sigale is going to be there, leaning against a tree, doing the equivalent of like doing a door lean and eating an apple.
Yeah.
And the
Coin
dragon is
flip.
there. Yeah. Like staring daggers at these boys, and they can't like, so the wing leaders and the instructors and everybody or second years can't do anything to help or interfere with Threshing. They have to let the first years fend for themselves, so he can just kind of stand there and brood, and that's about it.
He's
And
so cool.
he's so cool. So she gets into like a knife fight with them basically, and she actually does a pretty decent job of holding her own. She fights off these 3 guys. Jack does run away like a little bitch. So I just want that to be stated for the record. And oops, I'm getting into chapter 14 territory. They don't actually fight in chapter 13. Chapter 14 is when they
Right.
start fighting.
But I do remember when she jumps down from the tree and like runs to chase after them. Here's another great quote that doesn't make sense. My ankle has a heartbeat of its own. Which I understand what she was going for. You sprain your ankle, that shit's throbbing.
Mhm.
But that's a fucking weird way to put it.
I know.
Throbbing, pounding, pulsing, these are all viable words. Saying
Yep.
your ankle has a heartbeat is weird.
But it's so visceral.
Not really. But I think before they fight, I believe the big black Daggertail turns up and he's like, "What are you guys doing?"
They fight first because she's kind of about to lose when the dragon shows up. Like
Oh,
her arm is all fucked up.
right.
Tynan is coming in to like round on her, and then like the biggest fucking dragon in the entire galaxy, the
Yeah.
unbonded black dragon from Dragon School's lesson that one time, the Morning Star Tail himself
I thought it
shows
was a
up.
Daggertail.
No, the black dragons are Morning Star Tails because they
Oh.
have the clubbing power of a club tail, but the deadly ability to lacerate
Oh god, whatever.
as well.
They're so cool.
They're the coolest, strongest, most powerful, biggest dragons in all land. And there's only one of them, and it's Violet. who is gonna talk to this dragon.
Then I guess that's it for chapter 13.
That's honestly it for chapter 13 and most of chapter 14.
Right, but
'Cause
we also learn in chapter 14 that the big black dragon is called like Tiernanach,
yeah.
but that's not how it's pronounced in the book.
No, of course not. Why would she pronounce things right?
It's in the book it's just Tiernanach,
Oh, good.
which is not Gallic. That's
No.
just like white people not bothering.
Yeah.
Also in chapter 14, when they are fighting, they're kind of like chirping back and forth with each other, but it's the same type. It's as bad as like when anybody's like, hey Violet, how are you? And she's like, fuck you, asshole. It's
Yeah.
the
You're
same
so
level. It's the same level of shit as that. And like, uh, one of the assholes is like, "Oh, you're so pathetic. I'll beat you so fast." And she's like, "Oh, you're gonna have to come up with something better than that." And I'm like, "Kill me now. I can't stand this."
It's really bad. It's bad banter all around.
Also, Rebecca says that someone undulates their head in a serpentine motion, and I said, undulating does not equate to serpentine movement.
What's undulating again?
It's sort of like a throbbing.
Is it like jellyfish? Like
Kind of, yeah. It's just like a
or like how worms move? I
I
don't
don't know about
know.
that. I just know undulating is kind of a throbbing. Um, but we've seen so much proof already that she doesn't know what words mean. So what's another one?
Well, I know I used to do these like yoga videos by this like very intense white woman who was doing a lot of cultural appropriation that I now understand in retrospect. Her
Sure.
yoga her yoga name is Shiva Ray,
Oh
and she's
boy.
the most like she's the whitest woman you've ever seen in your life. She would do these yoga movements and she would say undulate your spine and you would be standing like in a straight line just basically doing this with your back
Right.
or like in like a cat cow going like as much as you can with your spine. So I guess I can kind of see if a dragon's doing like maybe that's undulating in a serpentine way.
Well, I just looked up the definition and it's a rising and falling motion. So I guess it
Okay.
does. But I've always seen it used as sort of like a throbbing pulsing, which I
Yeah.
guess is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's a nebulous thing to picture as an action. I guess there's a lot of like
I've also seen people get really uh squeamish about the word undulating, kind of like how they do moist, and I'm like, get over it.
why?
I don't know. I feel the same way about moist. Like when people are like, ew, moist is such a gross word. Grow up.
I used to be one of those people, I'm not gonna lie, but
But you
I'm fine
grew up.
now. I grew up. I am an adult.
It's just a word. But yeah, that is that's not it. I still have more fucking bones to pick with this chapter.
Yeah, because we meet Tarn. I think is that how
Yeah.
you pronounce his name? Okay.
Yeah. Tierninach.
Mhm.
Uh when he compels her to like get on because he's gonna fly away.
Mhm.
Um After big swinging Dick Violet just like uh bullied and bodied these three dudes.
Mhm.
Now that she's on the dragon, suddenly she's meek and pathetic and self-deprecating again.
I
She's
can't
like,
believe you chose me.
yeah, oh my gosh, how can I even possibly get up on you big wagon? I'm so small and little. I'm just a baby.
He makes his leg into a little ramp for her to climb.
Yeah, and she still
He's like
struggles with that.
yeah, but in her defense, she says she comes up to his ankle. So, like, the dragon she was training to climb up on were so much smaller of the 25-foot height variety, than
Could it
Tarn.
be, let me put it this to you.
Okay.
Do you think Rebecca forgot how big her dragons were?
Well, because if we're thinking about this to scale, right? A 25-foot dragon, where's
Mm-hmm.
their ankle gonna be on you? Maybe
On me, probably like mid, like knee. But then, like, if you're thinking about a dragon and their like legs, what the fuck is their ankle? That's like, where's the knee on a dog?
Well, yeah, because, like, their ankle is on the ground, essentially, is it not? Like,
That would just be their foot. No?
but, like, your ankle is, like, pretty close to the ground.
Yeah, but dragons don't have ankles per se. They have a, I guess you could argue, a wrist.
No, but I mean, like, it doesn't make sense to use that as a height marker to compare against because it's just like they're
Right. It
I
would be very close to the ground no matter what.
so, like, if Violet's whole body is up to the bone of an ankle bone, like, if we're looking at it in human terms, where your fucking little bone is on your ankle,
Right.
she's like this dragon up here.
That tells me she forgot how big her dragons are.
All that matters is that he's bigger than any other dragon that's ever lived except for General Melgram's, and that's it. That's all we need to know.
Like, I came away from her saying, like, the ankle conundrum, I came away from that going, that's weird and confusing. That doesn't make sense. And now we've cracked it open even further to the whole thing doesn't make sense.
No,
Either she is the tiniest person to ever live,
either she's 2'3".
yeah, or Rebecca doesn't know what an ankle is, or she doesn't know that a dragon's ankle is technically their wrist. So if their hand is on the ground,
Yeah,
ankle's here. They're giant lizards. They've got like wrists.
yeah.
Rebecca, come
So
on.
that's fun to think about. Hey, with anything in this book, don't think about it too hard.
Too late. Too late. I done thought it. Anyway, let's go to chapter 15.
Okay.
This is she's flying away with Tierninach. And this is like the most so that just happened the book has ever been so far. The level of garbage MCU level dialogue of like snarky retorts and self-deprecating like uh banter is at unsafe levels in this chapter
Yeah.
because the dragon's like, and I just know she thought this was so funny. The dragon sees that she's bleeding from her fight and he says, "You're bleeding, stop it." And I could just hear the laugh track in her own mind,
Yeah.
but it's not that funny.
Nothing has made me laugh out loud in this book until Tarn showed up to bond with Violet after I was like, "There's no way this dragon isn't showing up." That was the first thing, and then everything that happens after that made me laugh too.
And not in like the way she intended us to laugh at it.
No, no, it was like, I can't believe I was correctly guessing these
This
things.
is so dumb. And like, it doesn't make sense to say I'm reading this book like a book because that metaphor doesn't track. But we are definitely like reading this book to filth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know your like I know your every move.
Mhm.
But like the dragon takes her back to the college.
Well, they have to put on a little aerial performance
Oh
first.
right, because Harry Potter, when he first got his broom, he had to put on a little arrow before.
Yeah.
Nothing is new under the sun.
No, and so because Violet cannot stay in her seat to save her life, Tarn has to create like a magic seat belt for her essentially. And then
Oh
so
yeah, I
he's
forgot.
using some of his magic powers to hold her in place while he's like doing barrel rolls and shit to prove that like he chose her and everything's fine. And meanwhile, there's like other riders just falling to their deaths around her. And she's like, "Oh my God, I kind of knew them anyways." And then she's just like doing more barrel rolls. And then Tart's saying to her things like, "You're the smartest, you're the most cunning in your year." How would he know that?
How would he
Unless
know?
unless well, I'll say it
Well,
later.
first of all, he can read her thoughts, and she thinks she's the most cunning and smartest person in her class. So he's like, "Wow, congratulations on being the smartest and most cunning."
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. The whole thing is weird, but then this little golden dragon is following them, and we're like, "Oh, it can fly. How cute." And so it just kinda, like, follows them to the grounds and then lands and, like, hangs out with
yeah,
Tarn.
to like a procession. They land to a gathering, a procession, and I wrote in my notes, of course the whole school is there for her to see her riding the most important and dopest and most legendary dragon of all time.
Of course.
It's all going according to plan.
It's the old moniker from one of the Aeronauts, Star Wars re-ups where if if there's nobody in the VIP, there are no P to see you being VI.
That's so true.
Mhm. How is it a VI?
Words to live by from the great what the hell was his name? It was like Larry Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
No, Larry Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
Uh the greatest dance battler in the
Mhm.
galaxy.
May he rest in peace. He's not dead.
We never anyway. I think that's kind of it for chapter 15.
Well, there's one more
Kind of.
crucial thing that happens in chapter 15
Oh,
where you have to go report you and your dragon's name to the records keeper because the only people who know dragons' names are yourself
right.
and your record keeper. And so and Violet's mom is there pretending she doesn't exist. And she is like part of the people you have to like report to. And so Violet reports the dragon's name, and then the little golden dragon in her head goes, "Tell them my name too." And so our special baby girl gets two dragons,
Yeah.
Tarn and Darna
And Diurna,
and Diurna
I think. That's what the young lady said, I
on
think.
TikTok. Okay. Yeah,
Which
two dragons for our girl.
it's almost a joke.
Yeah, that was like such a Renesmee moment for me
Yeah.
when I
It,
saw that.
just comical levels of like we're not even trying to pretend that Violet has to struggle at all.
No.
She has not struggled from the moment she got here except for having her arm dislocated once.
And, like,
And
a
also the
knee.
struggle, I think it happens later in this batch of chapters, but the struggle of that pink-haired bitch forcing her to do hip flexors.
Yeah. Doing inner thigh workouts and, like, hip bridges.
Which even that felt like it was just preamble for the fucking.
The whole thing, it just turns into a personal trainer team training montage essentially
Yeah.
after this. Like, but that's basically the end of chapter 15 and then chapter 16.
Yeah.
So fun.
My first note for for chapter 16 is in the tone of the classic like Sonic the Hedgehog meme of like, I bet you're wondering how I ended up here.
With the record scratch.
Yeah. I even wrote down record scratch. Yeah, you're probably wondering how I ended up with two dragons.
Uh-huh.
It's
This
a
whole part
joke.
it is. This whole part was really bizarre to me as well because so like chaos erupts when she claims two dragons
Yeah.
and all the humans are like impossible, this can't be done, but then Tarn's like no no no, us dragons are going to go have a little secret meeting, um the Imperium or whatever that they're called, and everything will be as it should be. So they go have their dragon meeting and then they report back to the humans who are pretending like they have any semblance of control and agency over this situation.
Right.
Basically tell the humans what's what. But as this is all happening, she's reunited with Dane.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Damn it, Violet," the only thing he ever says to her. And then this is another moment where the writing is so clumsy that I had to write it down because it made me so furious. But he's, like, talking about the 2 dragons, and he, like, mispronounces Andirna's name, and she corrects his name, and then it goes, "A smile playing on my lips at the thought of the small golden dragon." We fucking know it's a small golden dragon. You just spoke to her. It was almost like she's recalling something from her childhood
Yeah.
with the level of detail she had to go in for that, and it's like,
It was just
"Just
here.
get rid of it. We don't need that. We just don't need that."
Also, as an aside, whenever people in like whenever books use playing on my lips, I can't stand it.
I hate it.
can't stand it.
I know.
And uh she starts using it more often later, but
With Xaden.
yes, but also the other pet peeve I have with words is when they're like when something sounded down the hall. I'm like, sounded is not a descriptor.
Yeah.
Something doesn't sounded, okay? It can report, it can clang, it can bang. Nothing sounds.
When you s when you did that, I don't know what caused it, but your webcam started shaking
Oh, because I my
with
the arm
with
of my
your
chair.
words. So, it just seemed like unbridled rage.
The armrest of my chair was pushing up against my desk, so when I wiggled in my chair, it wiggled the desk
It was
too.
like sounded.
Anyway, we'll get to that because I wrote down every instance this bitch uses sounded.
Good. Just like me writing down every instance of Violet's scalp prickling.
Or macabre.
Well, yeah. But then okay, so Dane is like, "You have to choose the small golden one, that's the safer option. You have to choose." As and then he continues on as if the matter is decided by that. And he talks about he tells Violet that this is a very bad plan. You cannot be Tarn's bonded rider because wouldn't you know it, Tarn is in a mated pair with another dragon. Guess whose dragon he's mated to? Xaden's
Oh
dragon.
no!
Who could have seen that coming? So, this is where things get confusing once more because you would think Dane would fucking know about what it means when a dragon pair is mated and how their lives are interdependent. So he goes, Xaden is unpredictable. He's going to try to get you killed, especially even more than normal now, because his dragon is mated to your dragon. And he obviously hates you and wants you dead. So you should look out and definitely not be with that dragon. But then it's like, obviously, if a rider dies, their dragon goes through hell and sometimes also dies. Wouldn't he know that? Or is that information that, like, we don't get until later when it's like, "Oh, Tarn's connection to his bonded humans is so powerful." that the losing them like nearly kills him. So,
Let me present you a theory.
okay.
Rebecca hadn't thought of that aspect yet.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Also, when he tells her she has to pick the Endirna, and he's like, "You can't have two dragons. You have to pick the small, pathetic one," which is
Yeah,
fucking
like
rude.
you. Yeah, pick one that is more like you.
She climbs up onto her high horse and goes full rules lawyer again, and
Mhm.
says, "No one has ever had to choose a dragon, and I'm not gonna start now."
Mhm.
And I wrote down in my notes that it's pretty fucking courageous to recite like tradition when you're the only person who's ever had two dragons pick you.
Yeah,
Like, wow. How brave.
I
Never
know.
mind that like people are literally throwing themselves off of a parapet for a chance at a dragon. You're taking up two, you selfish bitch.
Yeah. It's so funny though, like, that happens, and then Dane and Xaden have, like, a little altercation between the 2 of them,
Of
and
course.
Dane starts immediately accusing Xaden of manipulating Threshing, and then Violet has an inner monologue of being like, "Whoa, like, that's pretty crazy and serious that he would say that," and it's like, "We don't need that from you, Violet. Hush up." Like, she has so many just meaningless inner monologue parts where it's like,
Mhm.
"Whoa, that was crazy that he just said that. Can you
I
believe it?"
can't believe it. No, like, shh. You're not part of this.
Yeah. They have, like, I imagine they're, like, this close, like, their lips are brushing against each other as they're talking, and,
The Deep Space Nine level close talking.
yeah, yeah, it's like that. Um, and then there's this conversation about, like, he's like, "Oh, you went and helped Violet. You manipulated the threshing," and Xaden is like, "Actually, I saw Violet, like, take on 3 students by herself and, like, really hold her own, blah, 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 even though it was really stupid to do so," and Violet, like, chimes in being like, "And I do it again!" And he goes, "Well, the fuck aware." And they have this moment where they both gasp at the same time because it's the first time he's ever lost control, and he's
Right.
like, "Oh," and she's like, "Oh my god, does he, like, care?"
Wow, I got a. It's like the she's fully in like kink terms, like brat mode,
That's her whole personality.
doing everything and everything to get a rise out of somebody so they pay attention to her.
Yeah, but, like, specifically Satan. I feel like she's
Yeah,
really only like that with him.
she's a brat with fucking Dane too.
Yeah, that's true, actually. But so Zeta's like, "You mean to tell me you'd never break the rules to save Violet, like, your friend?" And Dana's immediately like, "Definitely no, I would not do that." And Violet gets really, like, heartbroken over that. As if, like, the one thing we all know about Dane is that he loves rules more than anything else.
Yeah.
And then Violet starts thinking back to what was going on in the valley, and she's like, From what I recall, Xaden actually took a step towards me before Tarn showed up." And it's like, "Okay. Sure, honey. Sure,
Yeah.
sweetie.
Whatever you want
That's
to tell
so
yourself,
fine."
babe.
Yeah. So then she leaves with Xaden because,
Well, hold on a second. There
um
was like during the her and Zayden and yeah, like the love triangle interaction.
yeah.
Um there was this like vibe that was so counterintuitive to what we have been taught throughout the preceding book, and that like I wrote it as like a sarcastic quote where I said, "This school is the most dangerous that has ever existed. You'll be lucky to survive one day." And then also, "How dare you put your life in danger?"
I know. Well, that's Dane's whole deal with Violet. It's so fucking weird.
Even
Like,
Zayden's like, "How dare you put your life in danger, you fucking fool, you idiot, you dumb bitch."
yeah, true.
And it's like, well, what's the vibe here? Is life cheap or do we care?
Well, they care about the woman they love.
They care they care about the most special bitch in the whole school who's got the most overpowered dragon in the land. He
Yeah.
like she rolled legendary on that shit, baby.
Mm-hmm. And then she goes, so she finds out that because of this, she's chained to Xaden Ryerson because their dragons are in love.
They
And
break.
so he's gotta keep her safe because if she dies, Tarn will die, and then Sgael will die, and then Xaden will die. So everybody has Xaden, his one life's purpose now is to just keep Violet safe.
Yeah.
And it's so convenient because it like beyond all of that, all of the unbonded riders are now gonna be specifically hunting down Violet again to take her dragon, as if that is something one can do.
Yeah.
So,
The rules are inconsistent.
yeah, so then Xaden's like, "Well, I just have to be protecting you all the time." But then they announce that threshing is over. Violet gets to keep 2 dragons. She makes another mention of her scalp prickling because Xaden's looking at her as the announcement is made, and he does this to her to show her that she's the number 1 target for all the
Which
unbonded riders.
holding up one finger is not the universal signal for you are the like public enemy number one.
No, just looks like he's like,
It's like, what's up, brothers? Special
"Hello."
teams, special plays.
But they get their relics now, which are essentially fire created dragon tattoos, symbolizing the bond between dragon and rider. So they all stand and then they get breathed on by their dragons, and turns like, "Don't worry, you'll love the design I've come up with for you." And she gets this like full back piece of a giant outstretched dragon wing with like a little golden silhouette inside.
So stupid. I
Oh,
like
and
when I heard that, I had to pause it, get up and walk around, go outside because that was the truly one of the lamest things in this book so far.
yeah, but how many people do you think are getting small little tattoos of dragons with a little gold dragon inside after this book? I'm gonna tell you right now, it's more than you think, because when Divergent came out, Triss, after she does her train jumping shit and she's in Dauntless, she goes and gets a little tattoo of a bunch of little birds right here on her collarbone. And so many girls went and got that exact tattoo after that book came out. So I bet you there are a few Fourth Wing inspired
I don't like
tattoos.
it. Also, a couple notes that I made. Zayden's last name is Rierson
Oh, it's
or
Rierson.
Ryerson.
Okay.
Um, and I made a note that Ryerson is a surprisingly bitch name for someone who's called Zayden. Like, let's
Yeah,
not beat around the bush. Obviously, Zayden is a dumbass name,
sure.
but Ryerson is such a normal name that it kind of like undercuts the edgelord nature of Zayden to begin with. So it's just like he might as well be called like Barry.
Yeah, they should have put some like V's in his last name or something, like more
Yeah,
edgelord
like
consonants.
uh Zayden Wenger.
Yeah, something like that.
Something cool instead of like they might as well have called him like Zayden Smith.
Yeah.
Um also, this is where I noted that it's kind of like in almost an anti-feminist way problematic that in all of these books, Twilight, ACOTAR, uh even Kingdom of the Wicked to a degree, and in this, these strong, independent women who don't need no man also cannot function without the protection of at least 5 men.
Yeah.
Ladies, come on.
I mean, there's a lot of women writing books that are actually feminist fantasy novels, like, or at least just
Like actual
women.
feminist works.
Yeah, but these women are not
No.
feminists. Let's
And
be
like
real.
it the problem is that these are so popular that people are reading this shit and like getting the wrong idea. Because the author can sit here and be like, oh, but that wasn't my intention. I wasn't meaning it to be like a feminist work. And it's like, yeah, but kids, like, young people read this and it's stuck in their brain now.
Mm-hmm.
They see this pathetic, weak bitch who can't do anything and has to be protected by buff dudes who only want to fuck her.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of like the Colleen Hoover situation. I mean, obviously these
Yeah.
are bad, but Colleen Hoover pretends to write books that are supposed to be cautionary tales without doing any of the work to show why the romance that she is portraying in her books are bad or
Yeah.
violent
It's
or toxic.
always it's always a very cool thing to happen in the books, but outside of the book, she's like, no, it's not supposed to be good. I'm like, then how come you're talking about it like it is?
Yeah, there's in books like this where it's done by like white women who definitely have like a settler colonialism like message that they're spreading in a lot of these books.
Yeah.
Uh and their feminism is very centered in white woman feminism. So without being able to kind of see like the different like the intersectionality piece of it and the different ways that people are marginalized, it ends up becoming like this version of feminism that is so surface level and doesn't actually accomplish anything. Like you're just this girl and you think you're like a fucking girl boss, but at the end of the day, the only person who's fueling your character development is your relationship with men.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And like it's up to the men to drag her kicking and screaming through the story,
Hmm.
which is so bad.
Yeah.
And just like I don't enjoy reading that. That's not fun. It's not interesting. It's not good.
No.
Which is why in this essay I will explain what is wrong with feminist literature.
Oh boy. Best of luck.
Anyway, let's move on to chapter 17.
First thing before we do,
Oh?
Dane kisses Violet.
Oh, that's right. And she feels nothing.
She doesn't like it. She goes, "Oh no, I don't actually want that."
It's great. And like the great irony is that she kisses him, they share a moment and she gets nothing out of it. And she's like, "Oh no. I can't break his heart." But it's clearly described. And she also notices that he's not into it either.
He is, I think.
But he comes away from it like, that wasn't the vibe.
Well, they don't say it right away. He seems really happy after they kiss. But the next day he comes back and he's like, "That was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that."
Right.
But it's not because he didn't feel anything. It's because he's like, "I'm your superior officer. That's frowned upon. But don't think I don't want you because I super, super do. But
Oh
we'll
yeah,
just
you're right. You're right. I
put
forgot.
this on the back burner for a while." And I don't like that Violet doesn't say, "Actually, I only think of you as a friend." I don't want to
Yeah,
put this
we've
on.
got to like manufacture a love triangle from thin air.
Yeah.
Even though, and this is what really irks me about this kind of shit. Rebecca Yarros is in charge of what happens in this motherfucking book.
Mhm.
If she wants to have a love triangle, sure, go right ahead. It's great. We love a good love triangle. It worked so well for Bella, Jacob, and Edward. But there was never a moment in the Bella, Jacob, and Edward triangle where Bella was like, you know what, Jacob? I'm actually, honestly, I'm good. No, thank you. Except for, later on.
Well, actually, during the entire series of Twilight, Bella is constantly rebuffing Jacob's advances. It's not until the movie that they're like, "Oh, no, this was a love triangle. She did love him. She was being an unreliable narrator." In the books, she's always like, "Jake, I'm your friend. Jake, I'm not into you like that. Jake, no matter what, I'm always going to pick Edward." However, she keeps doing these stupid boundary crossing, like emotional affair things where she's like
Right.
showing up to hang out with the shirtless boys in their soaking wet jorts and like running around. And so,
Right.
like, she's constantly putting herself in these situations where it's definitely leading Jake on to think that he's got a chance.
Right.
But he's also crossing her boundaries at every turn, kissing her when she says no. And I will say in the book, Edward, a perfect gentleman about the whole thing. Bobby P played him a little bit more aggressive than I would have liked to see, but we love him for it.
But like, my point is, if you are writing the book and you want to have a love triangle, the optimal, I dare say correct way to go about it is to not have one of those points of the triangle go, I'm good.
I know, but part of me thinks maybe this'll mean that she's just gonna turn Dane into another villain instead of it being a love triangle. Like, he's just gonna be showing up and, like, fucking shit up, and she's not gonna like any of it and not encourage it, but just immediately turn him into a bad guy. I don't know if
Right.
that's what's gonna happen.
Because en- uh, enemies to lovers in this context of this kind of trash book nowadays is
Mhm.
not actual enemies. It's just that boy I don't like. I don't like the look of him. I don't like the way he talks to me. I don't like how fucking hard he is. So
Yeah.
she'll turn him into, well, I don't know. Cuz that would be like good.
Well, she might also have Dane just kinda, like, fade into the background so she can focus on Xaden and
She
Violet's
will, and
fucking banter.
mark my words on this, dear reader, she'll kill him.
I would love that. That would be kinda fun.
Ooh, you saying it would be fun makes me think she doesn't have the guts.
Mm,
But I'm gonna stick with it. She's gonna kill Dane.
okay. I like this prediction.
It'll be on record. In chapter 17, I believe because Violet and Dane have that awkward kiss, she immediately goes and tells Rhiannon,
Yeah.
which, by the way, gang, I am struggling to say Rhiannon without saying it to the tune of the Fleetwood Mac song.
So valid.
But she's basically like explaining how it was weird and awkward to Rhiannon, and I made a note how it was the most genuine thing in the whole book so far of kids or like young adults um sharing vulnerabilities with each other,
Mhm.
and then the one who is listening to that information being shared dismissively going, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You're cute.
Because Rhiannon's response to all of that information was to just go literally, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah. So sorry about that.
And I was like, "Wow, that's the most genuine thing that has happened in this book up to this point." Because Ain't nobody gives a shit about your fucking problems.
I know. It's good for Violet to be humbled like this.
But it's
It's weird
played
though.
it's played off like she genuinely meant it.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
But, it's like a brand new day for these people at Dragon School, and they find out to that they're all popular kids now,
yeah.
and they can sit at whatever table they want,
They
and
have
this
their
is
own room.
yeah. This is around the time where, like, all of the edgelord cool kids from the rebellious country are, like, setting up essentially a personal training team for Violet. They're like, "Okay, here, I'll get you some sausages for breakfast. You're gonna start meeting Imogen in the gym, 3 times a week to work on your quads."
Yeah.
And we basically just, like, enter into, like, a training montage era for Violet where she's just working on her strength, eating so much protein, she's working on getting those gains.
Yeah. And also taking the occasional ride with Tiernan.
Mhm.
Um and there was a moment where she was flying with him, and she mentioned that she was like coming off of her seat, and she was like she said like she repositioned her bottom, and I was like, whoa, 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 hold on a second. We've been saying fuck, bitch, asshole, balls. How come all of a sudden ass is too like a bridge too far?
Because this is meant in just not an edgelord or flirty way. We are talking pure practicality at this point.
That's stupid and
Why? You can
inconsistent.
say different things sometimes.
I guess, but like
What are you it's just a synonym.
I don't know. I think bottom is very childish.
Bottom is kind of weird. Yeah.
Like say rear, your butt.
I respect that you take issue with this.
I think it's dumb to like go full tilt with like endless amounts of fucks and shit and fuck yous, balls, ass, and then just this one time she's like, "Oh, my bottom." What are you, an infant?
It reminds me of, like, I got really somebody winded me once in elementary school, and I had just learned what the word diaphragm was, and I was like, "Oh, you hit me right on my diaphragm," and all my friends made fun of me. They were
Yeah,
like, "Why would you say it like that?"
grievous error.
And I got ostracized for the next 2 business days.
Yeah, honestly, I probably would have bullied you for that too.
Whoa. Maybe that would have been the start of our enemies to lovers arc.
Whoa. Uh, Also when she's out flying with Tiernanach.
Okay, so wait, how you're now saying his short name is Tiern. Is that so how do we say it? Have I been saying it wrong this whole time?
I don't think so.
I've been saying Tarn.
That's how the book pronounces.
I'm so scared of mispronouncing names. I'm on such high alert. I don't want to fuck it up.
I don't think it matters quite that much.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how like the shortened version is accurately pronounced, because the way I see it, it looks like it's pronounced Tiern.
Right. But I thought that I was listening to the TikTok you showed. So I'm like, did I hear wrong?
No.
Hold on. I need to look it up for myself.
But while they are flying, uh they have like her and this dragon have like a Three Stooges bit of like back and forth banter in like telepathy that
Yeah.
is so egregious and painful and
Mhm.
embarrassing. Like it's the most corny banter you can think of. Like all it needed was like a whoop 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 whoop.
Mhm.
After after the dragon ride, um, she gets accosted by like a gang of ne'er-do-wells, and by that I mean like almost literally anybody else in her class,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone in this entire school is the most temperamental, petty bitch who's ever existed. Like the pink-haired girl is like really rude and mean for no reason.
Yeah, she says Zayden's first name, and she's like, "That's Ryerson to you, bitch.
Yeah, and it's
Now
like,
do these
whoa,
crunches.
whoa, whoa.
Do these thigh crunches."
Excuse the hell out of me, bro.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like it for 17.
Yeah.
Chapter 18. It starts with I want to say somebody has like asked Violet, like she mentions something, I forget what. And whoever she's talking to, it might be Rhiannon, is like, but you could die doing that. Aren't you worried about dying?
Oh, it's a scribe. She goes
Oh,
she's, like, on library book return duty as part of her new, like, writer-related school tasks. So she's going down to the scribe quarter, and, um, that's essentially it. Yeah, she has that conversation with her little scribe friend.
yeah, where she's like, aren't you worried about dying? And Violet, very glib, goes, you just kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
Which irked me because you don't just like not worry about it. Like you just don't, it's not like dying is not something that you just kind of like get used to.
No.
Because if you look at like veterans from war, the ones who don't care if they die, they have the attitude of I'm dead already.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm just like punching in my ticket until it happens.
Yeah.
You don't just go, well, I got over it.
I no longer fear death.
Yeah, what are you gonna
I've
do?
been I've been here for 3 months.
You just get used to impending death all the time. You don't. That's not a thing that happens.
No.
Even for the most like hardened person, I can't imagine that they're like, yeah, fuck it. Whatever happens, happens, baby.
I'm good with it. I've made my peace.
It's the way that the narrator talks in the audiobook. The way that she does some voices, particularly and Diernan and some of the other women, it sounds like she will burst into song at any moment. Like she has a very like Broadway way of speaking that
Mm,
I'm expecting like a Broadway song to start, and it's very jarring.
mhm.
I don't like it. Also, I think this is kind of where we dive deeper into like their signets.
Yeah.
Like signets are kind of explained more in this chapter. And personally, I think that having magical powers in a book like this is, in comedy terms, it's a bit of a hat on a hat,
Yeah.
like a joke on top of a joke that makes
Mhm.
both jokes worse.
Yeah.
Because you have dragons that are pretty powerful, but then also the people who ride them can't be left out. So you give them a little magical power too. That's too much.
A treat. They just need a little treat.
It's too much.
My cats are both looking at me now that I've said the word.
Uh oh.
Look away.
Never mind. Don't worry about it.
I think this is another moment where Dane is chastising her for he finds out how much Violet has been falling during her flying lessons. He's like, 3 dozen? Damn it, Violet. I'm terrified you're gonna die before graduation. And then she hold on, I wanna read what she says to Dane when she's like, "The reason we'll only ever be friends is because of this reason," she goes, "The reason we'll never be anything more than friends isn't because of your rules. It's because you have no faith in me. Even now, when I've survived against all odds and bonded not just one, but 2 dragons, you still think I won't make it. So forgive me, but you're about to be some of the bullshit that this place cuts away from me." And then Xaden always happens to be walking by when shit like this happens. He just appears, like, skulking out of the corner, and she
Yeah.
looks over at him, and she's like
Yeah.
it's like, "Stop it,
Fuck
please,
you. What do you want,
please
bitch?
stop." It's so My Immortal.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think this is the part where we find out what Jeremiah's signet ability is.
There's also a point where she's talking to her dragon, and occasionally he'll threaten her with bodily harm.
What?
Like if she doesn't get her act together, he's like, I could just drop you.
Oh.
And throughout this book so far, she has been terrified of anything that could possibly do her harm. And when this dragon is like, well, if you don't get your act together, I can just like drop you off of me. It's no, never mind to me. And she's like, give me a break. You would never. And I was like, bitch, where did you get this kind of attitude from?
It's so crazy the 180 she does. It's like the whole thing is like never make eye contact with a dragon. Even in the first few months of your bond, it's still very fragile. You could fall off, blah, blah, blah. And the immediate, like, she starts being a whiny little brat to her dragon the second they start communicating.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't climb up, help. Or like, you don't have to magic seatbelt me in. I have to learn how to how to keep my legs in an iron vice around you at all times. And he's like, all right, I'll let go. So he lets go and she starts falling a whole bunch. And then I think he wants to keep her safe. And I don't think he genuinely wants anything bad to happen to her because he'll probably die.
Yeah.
But it is fucking weird that like this dragon that like bonds so deeply with like the one out like 2 riders total and has been alive for so long. Why Violet?
Yeah, well,
Make it make sense.
uh and again, the interpersonal conflicts in this book, like the mildest of disagreements, are met with such a fury that you'd think this person told Violet she needs to go throw herself from the parapet. She's not worth anything. Her family's trash. Her dragon's like her clothes, whack. Her shoes, whack.
Mhm.
Like, I hate the way that you look, the way that you talk.
Mhm.
And but they're just like, maybe put away your own dishes for a change. And she's like, fuck you, I never liked you in the first place.
I know. It's so Feyre and so fucking what's her face from Kingdom of the Wicked.
Yeah.
Like, they're all so interchangeable, but
Which is insane to me. That like these books are getting away with murder
yeah.
in terms of just like laziness.
Well, they're like generic white women characters written by generic white women.
Yeah, who apparently have never interacted with another person for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Uh, but I believe that this is the chapter where, what did you say his name was?
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah gets his signet power, which unfortunately, and this is also crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, you don't get a choice in what your signet power is.
Nope.
You just kind of find out on a whim what it is. And if you remember, dear reader, from the last episode, mind reading is punishable by death within moments of its discovery.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah, poor Jeremiah, finds out that his signet is mind reading, and he has a conniption fit. And then when everybody realizes what's happening, he's
Mhm.
killed immediately.
It's so crazy and
Also, as a special little treat, I recorded a portion of the audiobook where this happens, where the narrator seems to be having a fucking stroke. I'll play it right now.
Someone shouts, coming forward. You! Jeremiah spins, pointing his finger at the third year. You think I've lost it? His head tilts, and his eyes flare. How does he know? He shouldn't know! His tone shifts like the words aren't his own. Chills race down my spine, dragging my stomach to the ground. And you! He spins again, pointing at a second year in first wing. What the hell is wrong with him? Why is he screaming? He turns again, focused on Dane. Is Violet going to hate me forever? Why can't she see that I just want to keep her alive? How is he? He's reading my thoughts. The impression is uncanny, embarrassing, and terrifying.
It's horrendous. Like, what the fuck was she thinking?
When you sent it to me, I was sitting in my chair, and by the end of the clip, I was stood up and halfway across the room with no memory of how I got there.
That's about how I felt. I was listening to it, and as it happened, I did one of those, like, what is this? And of course, in the tradition of this book, when he is immediately killed, everyone's just kind of like, boy, that was an inconvenience, huh?
Yeah, well, he was really loud when he was having an absolute mental collapse.
Crazy. Also, another delightful misuse of the word macabre.
Oh, really? I forgot to track that one down.
Yeah. I believe when poor Jeremiah is killed.
Meets his untimely demise at the hands of a professor. They're like, "But Jeremiah, he's an intrinsic," or whatever they call it. It has like 58 N's in one word. And this professor just nothing. He says nothing. He just comes in and just goes,
plugs him.
yeah, snaps his neck and just continues on his way.
Yeah, when his neck gets snapped, it's a macabre sound. Whatever that means.
Yeah, of course it is. But Violet goes to bed and she has a dream about being with her dad in the library. But then there's a voice in her head telling her to wake up now or die. And she wakes up and there are 7 people in her room trying to kill her, which is supposed to be the one thing you cannot do to another rider is kill them in their sleep.
Yeah,
It's very dishonorable.
It's almost like when the tenutive rules of the college are that anybody can kill you at any time. Don't matter,
Mhm.
even if you have like a you can't kill if people are asleep. Who's gonna complain if they're dead?
Yeah, they have no regard for the rules. They want that dragon so bad. So they all try to kill her and like Taryn's yelling in her mind being like, oh, Taryn's yelling in her mind being like,
Wait,
uh
you have to get out.
I can't get to you quick enough. And she's like, I know, I'll jump out the window. And he goes, that's way too high. And I'm like, what do you mean? How do you not know that how high your window is? You've been in this room at least for a few days. Surely you know how high up your window is. And she's
He'll
like, I'll just
catch me.
jump out.
He'll catch
So
me for
she's like,
free.
she's fighting all these assassins trying to murder her with knives in her bedroom, and she's about to get like choked out when time stops, and she doesn't know what's happening. She doesn't realize that she has stopped time, as we find out later when she's like, "What? I stopped time?" And it's like, what the fuck do you think it means when everyone around you is not moving and you are?
Yeah, I almost expected Rebecca to like write in the book like I could hear the distant ticking of a clock slow down.
Yeah, that would be very on brand.
But when this happened and everyone froze and she kind of realized that everyone froze around her, uh I stood up out of my chair and I said out loud, "No. No. That's bad.
I mean, yeah.
No." Like on a fundamental level, stopping time is too strong. It's too powerful. She already has the best, strongest, dopest, raddest, legendariest dragon there has ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the one from that guy we haven't seen. Also, she has another pathetic bitch dragon who talks like a widow baby.
Pathetic bitch dragon, how dare you? It's just a baby.
Yeah, and it even talks like a widow baby in the audiobook.
But it sounds like the power is coming from the baby dragon, because she in I was about to say Feyre's head. In Violet's head, she's like, quick, I can't hold it for much longer.
Yeah,
So
it definitely is coming from her.
yeah. So she's like, okay, no problem. And she like gets up and gets across the room. And then oh, but the stopping time is the end of chapter 18.
Right. I've already moved into 19 at this point.
Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
But like
Mhm.
stopping time when you have two super strong dragons at your disposal, the ability to stop time is too strong. Narratively, that's a poor choice. You want
Yes.
you would want to give her something. If it were me, I would give her an ability that, and I don't like this. I don't like what I'm about to say, but this would be narratively appropriate. You give her an ability that complements I almost called him Zendaya.
Shadow Daddy.
Yeah.
They
Give her a power that complements his so that they have to work together at some point.
mm-hmm.
Stopping time is too strong. That's too strong of a power.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty stupid and strong. Um, but then in her mind, as this is happening, she has another beautiful one sentence words. What the hell?
Ooh,
That's her
yeah.
only response to knowing that she can stop time, that even though she doesn't know that's what she's doing. And then there's this like crazy out of pocket line where Xaden appears in the doorway, and I quote, like some kind of dark avenging angel, the messenger of the queen of the gods.
Okay.
Huh?
Ooh.
No other context is given
No.
about who, what, where, when,
But wait.
how, why.
Read what happens to her body when Xaden turns up.
Does something specific happen to her body when he turns up?
Yeah, something that doesn't happen to normal people.
Okay.
She like turns into like every bodily function occurs at once.
She just shits herself.
She starts sweating. Like it's almost as if Rebecca Yaros didn't know how to describe a body's reaction to getting horny. So she was just like she just wrote like a body breaking down from like liver disease.
It's not really until after Xaden kills all 7 of the assassins trying to murder her, and then they're kind of alone in her room together, because we reach the part. So after he like kills all these assassins, gets his boys to come in and like clean up the mess,
Right.
and then he's like in Violet's wardrobe pulling out a cloak and some boots and shit. And then we get to a very key milestone in any enemies to lovers arc, where the one party looks at the other party with like a ghost of concern hidden deep within their eyeballs, and
Yes, of
asks,
course.
"Are you hurt?" And
Yeah.
his words are clipped and break whatever temporary block I had on the pain. Then he's like he starts calling her violence again, which I'm like,
Yeah,
please
of
stop.
course.
Please stop. They are alone. Um oh yeah, he's like, I can tell by the way you're breathing like shit that it's probably your ribs. So let me just unlace your corset real quick so I can visually
And he's
examine.
really good at it. He's
Yeah.
so good at unlacing a corset. And I was like, yeah, it's not that hard.
It's just like untying a shoe.
Yeah.
So he goes,
Unless he's brain dead, then it shouldn't be hard.
he goes, "Never lie to me," because she's like, "I'm fine," and he's like, "Never lie to me." And then and then she's like, "I'm hurt, actually, yeah." And then he goes, "Let me see." So then he starts like taking apart her corset, and as he's doing so, it's like his jaw flexes once, and something that
Ooh.
reminds me of raw hunger flitters across his expression before he locks it down, drawing my hair over my shoulder with surprising gentleness.
Hunger?
Because he wants to fuck. I don't know. Well, yeah,
Ugh.
that's definitely why. He wants to
Ugh.
devour her like he's
Yeah.
the werewolf, and
Because
she's
that's the only way that these like middle-aged white women can describe desire from a man is like this weird carnal desire to like eat them.
yeah. And then he's like, "How do you get into this thing every morning?" About her corset. He asks, clearing his throat as inch after inch of my back is exposed. And then she's like, "I'm freakishly flexible. It's part of the whole bone snapping, joints tearing thing."
What does
So
that mean?
there's like her bodily reactions are mostly just like she's getting butterflies in her tummy. But then he like kneels before her and she's like, "Oh my God, what's he about to do? Xaden here? Oh my God." And then he just starts putting her boots on for her and she's like, "Ow." And,
Right.
he wraps her cloak around her like she's something precious. And then I hate when she fucking does this, but it's like, in my defense, in a sick, twisted twisted way, his rescue was pretty damn hot.
Yeah, I wrote
Stop
that
it.
down. I wrote that
Stop
down
it.
because I was like, what are we saying here? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean a rescue's hot?
Ugh.
That's nonsense.
Yeah. We do get some pretty extraordinary banter though. So he's like leading her through the school into like
Right.
a secret tunnel and he's like, "I hope you're not afraid of the dark violence." And then she's like, "Actually, I kind of am." And so he puts on like a mage light for them, and they start having some quality banter. She's like, "Could you slow down?" or something to that effect. He's like, "I'm not going to baby you like that fuck boy Dane does."
Hell yeah.
And then she goes, "I don't think I'll ever bother sleeping again." I shoot a look sideways at his irritatingly gorgeous profile. "And if you even think about suggesting that you sleep with me for safety from now on, And then he interrupts her by being like, "Hardly. I don't fuck first years, even when I was one, let alone you."
Yeah, what a tough guy, dude. Fucking
I
like fucking rungs up the ladder, dude.
so cool.
Oh god, he's such a loser.
Then she's like, "I have to be a masochist to sleep with you, and I can assure you I'm not." And then he's like, "You was masochist?" A corner of his mouth quirks into a smirk. And then they, like, have a little moment. He, like, almost laughs at a joke she makes, and they find out that he's taking her on a special secret route to, like, the flight field, and they're meeting up with the dragons, and she keeps talking about how he has, like, a nice minty smell. I'm like, "You couldn't do better than that?
No,
Why
she couldn't.
minty? Why minty? Just toothpaste? Okay."
This is a woman who uses macabre wrong.
Yeah, true. Um, but man, if that minty scent isn't delicious. So they get up there, and then we find out that, like, Xaden can hear Tarn in his head, because if dragons are mated, you can hear the dragon's mate, and that's just very convenient, isn't it?
Like, come on.
She can hear Scale.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired of all of it already.
Yeah, they're just
We're only halfway through the book.
I would say we're a little more than halfway.
What is there, like 39 chapters?
Yeah, so we're the littlest bit more than halfway.
One whole chapter.
Mhm. But they're basically just, like, recapping everything that happened, and Violet
Yeah.
takes this long to understand that what she did was stop time, and then Xaden's like, "You can never tell anybody this ever, ever, ever." We find out that, Andirna is a baby, a literal baby, and all dragon babies are feather tails when they're born, and she's only 2 years old. And now they're just trying to figure out how, like, people got into Violet's room, and she's like, "Oh, I have a suggestion. I think I know who it is." And this is information that's new to us, I believe, because I don't know that we had the information of who was maybe trying to get into her room. And so why does Violet, the first person narrator of this book, have information that we, the readers, do not? Unless I missed something,
Yeah,
which
if
is
this is
possible.
this is the pitfall of having a first person perspective book. Because if your POV is in first person, then you cannot, under any circumstances, have that POV character receive information that we, the audience, also do not at the same time.
Mhm. That's crazy.
Because we are there the whole time.
Yeah. When did you see this person unlocking your door? When?
Your bitch ass was asleep.
Yeah, she's like, "You're not gonna believe it, but I think I know who it is." And then, um, that's the end of basically chapter 19.
And then chapter 20 is entire. Actually, I don't remember who it actually was that unlocked her door.
Oh, so she's, like, comparing Xaden to Poison. She's realizing that she loves Xaden. She's like, "Oh my god, I want him. Whoa, this is a revelation. I had no idea." Violet's only now realizing she's had a crush on him this whole time,
Right.
even though, like, they've had 1, maybe 2 conversations at this point, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Anyways,
She just
so
likes his vibe. She just likes his vibe. I saw you from across the room. Me and my husband like your vibe.
yeah, he, assigns a new person to the squad named Liam, and Violet keeps interrupting him, being like, "I don't need a fucking bodyguard." And he's like, "Oh, well, that turns out, yes, you absolutely do after last night." So this guy, Liam, is just gonna, like, be in all of her same classes and be in the room next to her, so he can keep an eye on her all the time, and she's really mad about that because I think in her heart, she just wants Xaden to be with her at all times. And then they have all these conversations in, like, assembly where Violet says out loud, "I miss sex." And it's like, "Girl, stop it.
No
Everybody
one
stop."
asked.
And then one of her friends behind her is like, "Well, I could fulfill that need for you if you want." And she's like, "I miss good sex." But
She wouldn't know
any
what that was if it hit her in the mouth.
Zayden gets up on stage at this
Like-
point and starts giving a speech.
She's 20 years old. She doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about.
Well, she thinks she does. We all think we know what we're talking about when
So
it's
tr-
the oldest we've
so-
ever been.
So true.
Zayden starts giving a speech and he reveals that it was Amber, that bitch who contested Violet's gauntlet success, who unlocked the doors for them to get in. And then Dane starts doing some lunatic behavior, which is why I think he will become an enemy, is he starts demanding Violet give up her memories to him so he can see that she actually saw Amber unlocking the doors, because it's unfathomable to him that a wing leader would break rules and do something that is untoward. And Violet can't obviously give him her memories because the time stopping piece is in there. And that is the most confidential thing of all time. So she's like, touch me without my permission and you'll regret it till the day you die, bitch.
Yeah, of
And he's like,
course.
Violet, I didn't, you're talking to me
It
in
seems
such
like a
aggressive
reasonable
terms.
request. Like if we're going to get to the bottom of this, I'm gonna need to get into the memories.
Yeah, but the reason I think he's gonna become a villain is because he's so insistent upon it, and he's such a cop at heart.
Yeah, true.
So we'll see, but they kill Amber on sight. Like Tarn just fucking incinerates her,
Yep.
and
Everyone's
that's
like, okay.
yeah. But okay, so this is like all the stuff with all the dragon mate stuff.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks there's gonna be a fated mate plot with Zayden and Violet because of all this scalp prickling shit that she feels whenever he's
Yeah,
around.
of course.
And also the fact that they can hear each other's dragons, and there's probably gonna be some shit about, like, mated riders and mated dragons, and there being some kind of discourse around that, and I think we'll find out that Zayden was, like, the one feeding Tarn all the information about how smart and cunning and everything,
Yeah.
Violet
I
is.
mean, that's no contest.
Yeah.
The shit's so simple. Also, speaking of that's it, by the way, gang. We're that's all we read so far.
Yep. We've made it to chapter 20. We have 19 chapters to go.
But to the, like, with Amber getting, like, incinerated, it only just occurred to me as to why the deaths feel cheap
Mhm.
and kind of like no one cares. It's because she doesn't describe their death at all. Like
That's
no one's screaming at being, like, immolated. A dragon is burning them to death and no one's screaming. Like
Mhm.
no flesh is falling off of them. They're just like, ah, and dead.
Yeah.
And like that does not carry any weight,
No.
which is too bad because I think it would really bring home how fucking crazy the school is if people were like howling in excruciating pain as flesh was being melted off of their bones.
Yeah, or even considering the death that they've already encountered in their short time at Dragon School.
Mhm.
Like, just nobody cares. They're all just absolute sociopaths.
It's really crazy. Anyway, we will be back in 2 weeks with more of this fucking book.
I can't wait.
I could, but I won't. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next
Goodbye.
time.